Donald Trump has never been one to mince words. Whether on stage, at a rally, or in front of the press, his statements often spark global headlines. Recently, he made another bold claim that China, North Korea, and Russia are actively conspiring against the United States. This statement came at a time of heightened global tension, with wars, shifting alliances, and an ever-growing contest between great powers. For Trump's supporters, this sounded like a warning, a leader who understands the bigger picture. For his critics, it was yet another exaggerated statement designed to grab attention. But what does this claim really mean? Could these three nations, each powerful in their own way, truly be plotting together against America? Or is this a case of political theater and hyperbole? Before we dive into this topic, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. This deep dive will unpack Trump's words, analyze the roles of China, North Korea, and Russia, explore how realistic such an alliance could be, and discuss what it means for the future of the U.S. and the world. By the end of this, you'll have a much clearer picture of whether Trump's warning was paranoia, foresight, or something in between. When Trump said that China, North Korea, and Russia were conspiring against the U.S., it wasn't in a closed briefing or a quiet conversation. It was in public. That's part of Trump's style. He uses big, dramatic words to make points, to shape headlines, to energize his base. The phrase conspiring against immediately triggered a media storm. News outlets rushed to cover it. Supporters online called Trump a truth-teller, who was warning America about dangers that the current administration might be ignoring. Critics, however, dismissed the statement as reckless, even dangerous, because suggesting that three nuclear-armed states are plotting against the U.S. can fuel paranoia, tension, and even miscalculations. The timing was also crucial. Remarks came shortly after Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted both Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong in Beijing. The event was largely ceremonial, a military parade marking China's National Day, but the optics were powerful. Three authoritarian leaders, standing together, celebrating military might. For many observers, this was a symbol of shifting global power. For Trump, it was proof of what he's been saying all along. America's rivals are working together, and the U.S. must wake up. The Kremlin, interestingly, responded with laughter. Russian officials said Trump's statement was ridiculous and out of touch with reality. Chinese state media ignored the claim entirely, while North Korea's propaganda outlets, as usual, made no mention of it. But the silence from Beijing and Pyongyang, combined with Putin's mockery, only made the statement more intriguing. Was Trump exaggerating? Or had he touched on something that global powers would rather not admit openly? China has long been at the center of American foreign policy discussions. With its massive economy, rapidly modernizing military, its increasingly assertive foreign policy, Beijing is seen as Washington's primary competitor. When Trump says China is conspiring against the U.S., many analysts nod in partial agreement, even if not in a literal sense. China has certainly taken steps that align against U.S. interests. China is no longer the world's factory, a country that produces cheap goods for Western markets. It is now a technological powerhouse, leading in fields like artificial intelligence, 5G telecommunications, and green energy. Huawei, TikTok, and BYD, the electric car giant, are just a few examples of Chinese companies challenging American dominance. Economically, China has expanded its influence through the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), a trillion-dollar infrastructure project that funds roads, railways, and ports across Asia, Africa, and even Europe. Critics call it debt-trap diplomacy, while China presents it as win-win cooperation. Either way, it's undeniable. Nations around the world are becoming increasingly dependent on China, in military terms. China has poured billions into expanding its navy, building hypersonic missiles, and developing cutting-edge cyber capabilities. The U.S. Department of Defense has repeatedly warned that China now possesses the largest navy in the world, by sheer numbers of ships. Most importantly, China's focus on Taiwan is seen as the most likely flashpoint for U.S.-China conflict. Trump's warning about conspiracies isn't just about vague cooperation, it's about the possibility that Beijing may soon test Washington's resolve in the Pacific. Asterisk, asterisk. One of the most striking developments in recent years has been the growing partnership between China and Russia. Although historically mistrustful of each other, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin have found common ground. Both want to challenge what they see as U.S. hegemony. Both resist Western-led institutions like NATO and the G7, and both prefer a multipolar world where American dominance is reduced. This partnership has taken visible forms: joint military exercises, energy deals, and coordinated positions. In the United Nations, while not a formal alliance, our cooperation is far deeper than it was even a decade ago. China's relationship with North Korea is more complicated. On one hand, Beijing sees Pyongyang as a buffer state, a barrier between itself and U.S.-allied South Korea. On the other, North Korea's nuclear ambitions and unpredictable behavior often embarrass China on the global stage. Still, whenever international sanctions bite too hard, North Korea has turned to China for survival. Trade, smuggling, and quiet financial support flow across the border, keeping Kim Jong-un's regime afloat. So, when Trump suggests that China is part of a conspiracy with Russia and North Korea, he's highlighting something that many foreign policy experts already see. While Beijing may not always like Pyongyang's reckless behavior, it tolerates it because it distracts and weakens the U.S. position in Asia. China is indeed central to Trump's claim. Whether or not it's actively conspiring in a literal sense, it is undeniably reshaping the global order in ways that often clash with American interests. Its cooperation with Russia is growing, and its tolerance of North Korea adds weight to the perception of a united front. Asterisk, asterisk in the end. Donald Trump's warning about China and North Korea, Russia, conspiring against the United States is more than just political noise. Whether or not these nations have a formal pact, their actions show a growing alignment against American power. China is challenging U.S. dominance in trade and technology. Russia is pushing back militarily and politically. North Korea continues to destabilize with its nuclear threats. Together, they may not be official allies, but their shared interests put America in a position of constant pressure. So, was Trump exaggerating? Or was he sounding an alarm that the world should not ignore? That's a question every American, every global leader must think about. One thing is certain: the coming years will define whether the United States can adapt, compete, and stay strong in the face of this new era of rivalry.